You are listening to Journeys with Rebecca Radio, with your host, Rebecca Jernigan, your tour guide into discoveries. Coming to you live, simulcast from the heart of America to around the globe via the World Wide Web, terrestrial radio, satellite and podcast. Let's journey together into the realms of the unknown to the known, in search of enlightenment, knowledge, and truth.
All right, everyone, good evening. I am here in the heart of America, Kansas City, broadcasting live and heard on the Journeys with Rebecca Radio Network, and of course all of my great affiliates. So be sure to check them out by visiting my website. That's journeyswithrebecca.com, and welcome to tonight's show. Tonight I have a fabulous guest. His name is Mike Bara, and many of you might know him from his book, Dark Mission, which he co-authored with Richard Hoagland. And tonight he's here to be talking about his newest book. Now, let me give you a little bit of information. Mike says there's an energetic pulse coming from the center of the galaxy that sometime in the next several years, and each and every one of us has the power to dramatically reduce the physical effects with our mind in his new book called The Choice, using conscious thought and physics of the mind to reshape the world. There's a great shift coming in the near future, and we can all feel it. But what does this truly herald for the planet we inhabit? Is there a reason for concern about the apocalyptic prophecies of the Mayan calendar? And is there an underlying physics driving these changes? How does the huge astronomical event that will occur in 2012 affect consciousness? And most importantly, what can each of us do to influence this coming shift in both consciousness and physical reality? Now, this is a short synopsis of what is in store for all of us tonight. This is really going to be a wonderful show. We're going to encourage your questions for later on as well. But a reminder that there's still time to register for Now That You Know the Truth, Where Do We Go From Here conference scheduled for tomorrow morning, 10/10/10 at 11 a.m. Central Time with Wendy Kennedy, Nora Harold, Jalela Starr, and myself, Rebecca Jernigan. Just click on the special events tab to register. And this is going to be a fantastic conference. It really is. And on the page there, on that special events page, you can also see all the other previous conferences and purchase those as well. For tonight, do join us in the chat room. You can get to that right from the front page. It says Listen Chat. Just click on that. It'll take you right in there. If you have your questions for tonight, do write them down. The chat room monitors will forward those to me. We'll read them on air and get those questions answered for you tonight. Donations are needed if you can to donate to keep the journey going, obviously with all the fabulous guests and information. And by your donation of $50 or more, you too can receive an orgone generator. So please be sure to check out the links on the donation buttons and make those today. And my thanks to all of you who have donated. So, without further ado, let's journey together. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Talk with an intuitive touch. Journeys with Rebecca.
All right, everyone. Welcome back. And you are listening to Journeys with Rebecca, and we thank you for joining us tonight. And I want to wish a warm welcome to our guest tonight, Mike Bara. Mike, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. It's great to be here.
It's awesome to have you here, honestly. This has just been... we had a little short talk, as I always do with my guests before I go on the air, even the ones that's been on, many, many times. Mm-hmm. We always kind of, get together and just kind of resonate with each other, and everyone gets on the same page. You got delightful energy, and this is just really going to be a very fun and powerful night. I can already feel it.
Well, I can feel it too, so thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about, who you are, because this is your first visit on Journeys. And some of the people may not be as familiar with you. So if you might want to just kind of give a little short description and maybe a bit of information about where you come from. Obviously, you co-authored the book Dark Mission with Richard Hoagland, so that certainly majorly got your feet wet with, that whole process the way Richard writes, and obviously you were a huge contributor to that. So your interest and focus and probably your passion lies in this kind of stuff. But share with the audience a little bit more information about you, if you will.
Well, I guess I started out for a really long time as just being, your average everyday aerospace engineer, working for the military-industrial complex. And after a while, I started to really get interested in what Richard Hoagland was doing, because I thought primarily the most interesting thing about him was that his ideas could be proven or disproven. UFOs, they're just lights in the sky, and there's all kinds of great videos, and now you have these great videos because there's all this plethora of video capable, cameras out there taking pictures of all this stuff, but now everybody says they're all computer generated and they're fake. So I kind of felt like nobody's ever really going to put their finger on UFOs, and Richard's stuff, because it was stuff that could be proven. And so I got interested in that, and through a series of non-coincidences, I got connected with him, and I started writing a few articles for him on his website. And after about 8 years, I said, why don't we put these together and write a book, because you haven't done a book in quite a while. So we got together and we worked on Dark Mission: The Secret History of NASA, and it's a full-blown conspiracy theory just about the things that NASA has found in the solar system, and that they've not too effectively covered up. And it got very strange as this whole thing, my journey with him, evolved. There was a lot of there's a lot of weird conspiracy stuff, just a lot of weird ritual, religious ritual that goes on behind the scenes at NASA, a lot of symbolic stuff in terms of the names of the spacecrafts and things like that, and it was all connected to ancient Egypt, which really it weirded me out at first, but then it began to, as I saw it, this pattern sort of evolve. I was like, okay, so they really are doing this stuff, because we could track them basically by the positions of the stars that were important to this ancient Egyptian stellar religion. So we did that book, and I guess last year I started thinking about wanting to do another book. Dark Mission was real successful. It was a New York Times bestseller. Got to 21 on the list at one point. That was pretty gratifying. Yeah, and it was interesting because we just couldn't, Richard and I, we talked about it, we really just couldn't agree on what we wanted the next book to be about, and I wanted to go a little bit more in the 2012 direction, and part of what had come out of Dark Mission was really reinforcing his theory that he calls hyperdimensional physics, which basically just means that in order to solve a lot of long-standing and unsolvable problems in physics, all you have to do is add higher dimensions, a fourth spatial dimension, a fifth, a sixth, or a seventh to the mathematical equations, and then everything works out. And this had kind of gotten lost in the history of science and physics through a series of, again, things that I don't think were coincidences. I think there was definitely a desire to keep us from discovering how energy really works, how the universe really works, and gaining access to this, this power that would come from the knowledge of knowing just truly how the universe really is constructed and how it's put together and how it really works. So that was out there, and kind of couldn't get along. And then and I was interested in the Mayan calendar and how it all connected, and we talked about that for quite a bit. And then I had a really powerful spiritual experience on November 9th of 2009, right after midnight. And I later on, somebody pointed out to me that exact moment was when, according to Dr. Carl Kalaman's interpretation of the Mayan calendar, we had moved from the 6th day to the 6th night of the galactic underworld of the Mayan calendar. And what happens when you get into that phase is that people's consciousness just accelerates. They begin to become aware. They begin to wake up. As Kalaman wrote about it, it was like basically everybody is going to start to realize that they're a lot more than just this corporeal flesh and blood body. And that experience, when I realized, happened right when that whole thing was transitioning. I said to myself, I guess, holy crap, this stuff is real. This is really real. This is really happening because it happened to me, and then it began to happen to me even more with other people, because I live in L.A., and
Right.
this place is filled with a lot of extremely superficial, materialistic people, and even some of them that you would never think would be interested in this sort of thing started asking me what I knew about it, and what did I think was going to happen, and what did I think of the 2012 movie, and all these kinds of things. And I realized that what Kalaman was talking about, this awakening, this second sort of harmonic convergence, was actually taking place all around me. And I said, Alia, this is what I have to write about. So right after that inspiration, I began to get focused on the new book. At first it was going to be called The Nemesis Effect, because it was going to be about physics and earth changes and all the sort of the scary stuff that had come out of some experiments that Richard Hoagland and some other people had done. And then it evolved into The Choice, because as I began to do more and more research, I realized, hey, that there are going to be some really interesting things happening, and they can be good or they can be bad, depending completely and entirely on what we as spiritual entities, depending on what we decide we want to have happen during this transitional period.
So a couple of things as you're talking. First of all, is obviously.
By the way, I'm not going to give you short answers. So if you want me to shut up, you got to ask me a question right in the middle. All right. Trust me, you're in a room with me and Richard Hoagland. The air is going to get sucked out of the room very quickly. So, all right.
How refreshing. Well, harmonic convergence. It has arrived back into my vocabulary, by the way, over the past few months, the original harmonic convergence. And so I just am pointing this out. So here we are having this conversation, and you bring up harmonic convergence again. And
right.
Obviously that has some value and significance, and I think there are others out there that clicks in for, and I just am supposed to say that. That's part of it. The next thing that you talked about was the Mayan calendar. Now, my thoughts are this. First of all, it's a tragedy in some sense that we do not have access to all of the original works of the Mayan calendar.
Yeah.
That we're only working on probably 1/10 of what had survived. And it makes you wonder, with the information of the Mayan calendar that does exist, what else, where was that at in the whole grand scheme of things? Was it the beginning? Was it the middle? Was it the end? Was it split apart? And, that whole thing is, left me scratching my head and really, really putting it out there that, I would love to have the other pieces to that whole thing, because I just think that it's just a huge disservice to everyone that we just don't have all of that. However, that being said, pardon me, I think that somewhere out there could be somebody that has some of it. It just hasn't surfaced yet. I think that's part of this whole consciousness thing that you're talking about in your book. The energies are about uncovering what has been covered up before, about bringing into awareness, consciousness, that which we haven't been able to see before. And I think that's physical as well as metaphysical.
I couldn't agree with you more. And